I'm Dr. Pete Economo, the East Coast psychologist.
And I'm Dr. Nikki Rubin, the West Coast psychologist.
And this is When East
Meets West.
So, Pete, today we are going to talk about distress tolerance skills. And, this is one we realized we couldn't believe we hadn't talked about it yet because it's kind of an important one therapeutically, but out in the world, it's something like people are always looking for ways to get through intense emotional experiences. Hello, Pete. How are you?
I am great. And it's like we've talked about everything, and yet so we could both find lots of things we haven't talked about. And we,
Yes.
yeah.
And then we're like, oh, we still have to talk about this one. So this one we
Yeah.
realized is a great one to discuss. And I guess maybe we could start by just is it okay with you, Pete, if I just like I know you love some definitions. Can I start with my
Throw it out.
my own
Throw it
my
out.
definitions? Throw it out. Okay. So for listeners, the term distress tolerance popularized in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, which is, in this wonderful under the umbrella of third wave cognitive behavioral therapies. It's got a whole, so if you Google distress tolerance skills, you'll find all kinds of things. It's a whole in DBT, it's a whole entire module in the groups there. So if anybody, that's listening is looking to have just like a great reference of skills to practice, like definitely the DBT skills manual for patients is a great thing to have. But basically what distress tolerance skills are, and the way DBT really teaches them I kind of like to say they're like mindful distraction,
Yes.
right? So, we talked about distraction actually a few weeks ago about, distraction that's not so helpful. This would be an example of intentionally choosing to distract oneself in a mindful way when you're basically experiencing emotions that are so intense that you can't regulate them.
Yeah.
So I'll often say to people, it's kind of like, on a scale of 1 to 10, if your emotions are getting at like a 6, they're like a 6.5 is what I say. 7, it starts to get a little hard to control, but so 6.5, 7-ish. It's time to turn to distress tolerance skills because these help you ride out the emotion until it passes, as opposed to doing things that we usually want to do when we feel intense emotion, which is try to make them go away, where people start to engage in behaviors that can make things worse. Like, for example, using substances or restricting eating or, getting into a shouting match with somebody.
Yeah.
Yes, sex. Absolutely. And I have a great analogy I'll use in a minute, but I guess I'll just pause and say, I don't know, is there anything else that you would add or like anything else that you explain clinically when you're teaching these?
No, I mean, like always, you did a great job. DBT is something that you and I were both trained in, but in this moment, we don't offer that as a manualized, training. For listeners, it is a manualized, intervention that includes distress tolerances is one of the skills, but it includes individual sessions and group sessions. You've got like coaching, calls with your clinician, and
But you can use it. But distress tolerance are used across. It's not only utilized within DBT. That was who popularized the name. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that. The interesting thing about DBT is that really most of what Marsha Linehan, which she now speaks about, is that she just basically took Zen and put it into a manual. A lot of mindfulness, distress tolerance, interpersonal effectiveness, and emotional regulation. That's all Zen.
Yes. Totally.
Yeah, and she says,
totally.
she talks about that. So yeah, and it's really like. Oftentimes, like you said, like when you're 6.5, whatever the gauge is, it's trying to do goal-directed behavior that maybe someone's like, uncomfortable doing or trying to avoid. And distress tolerance is just one mindful distraction.
Yeah, it's trying to help you get through a really intense time. And so, and these can be, and they're really concrete things to do. So, I just promised a great analogy, which isn't actually an analogy, I guess, because it's a different type of distress tolerance. But I always share with people, it's kind of like when you're on a boat when people get really seasick, most people know that you're told to look at the horizon.
Yes.
Right. And I get very seasick. So this resonates with me when I figured out, oh, it's the same thing. And I'll say to patients, when you're told to look at the horizon when you're really seasick, the intention of looking at the horizon is not to stop the nausea, and it's not to stop the boat from rocking, right? It's to actually keep the nausea where it is. It gives you something to focus on and to do until the C calms down, basically. Right. That's what we're doing with distress tolerance skills.
That's
so, it's just the emotion. It's like intense emotion and not nausea. I guess it could also be physical pain. Hopefully.
It absolutely. Especially with athletes, we do a lot of that with physical pain. Yep. And so maybe some tech. So because it is just like a universal intervention, are you also using some of the DBT like acronyms as you're teaching it anymore, or not really?
No, I don't know. I guess it depends. I mean, I think I just I basically share what I just shared with you all right now.
Which I love. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And then I actually have people write down different skills that they can do. And so, and this is something, any listener can do for themselves. And I tend to like just give some examples of things that tend to be helpful. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'll say like, start with things that are soothing behaviors, right? Like, and again, so another thing, it's like bumpers on a bowling lane. You're just trying to soften the blow, right? As the bowling ball rolls down. So soothing behaviors, I'll say like, put on an easy TV show to watch, like The Office or Friends. Sometimes you can watch a million times. Like, don't watch something that's gonna
what is your go-to?
Emotion. I love New Girl.
Mine is America's Funniest Home Videos. Go ahead.
Oh, nice. Great question. I'll say like, if people like animals, I'll say, this one never fails. I'll like literally Google baby animal, whatever animal you like to look at. I'm like baby pan. I'm like, whatever. That was like, that helps. So, I was like listening, making a playlist of soothing songs, right? Putting on good smelling lotion or using essential oils like lavender or eucalyptus. Then there's some of the more other concrete ones where it's like, if you can squeeze ice. That's a really common one. One of my most favorites, if someone is feeling really, really anxious or really angry, is take a paper towel or a like a small hand towel, put it under cold water, wring it out and put it on the back of your neck.
Yep.
I don't know why. I don't understand physiologically what helps about this, but it's different than like splashing cold water on your face. Like it seems to like bring body temperature down more. Got a couple other ones, but what else do you tell people to try, Pete?
Yeah, pros and con lists can help a lot. Just trying to like maybe assess some of the ambivalence there. Radical acceptance. I that's probably not as concrete as what you're trying to get at there, because that one's.
Yeah, I think more because it's easy. Yeah, I'm more thinking of like the actual like when people are like they're having a panic attack.
Yeah,
right.
Using the senses. So like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Say more about that.
Yep.
Well, say more about those. Yeah.
So like using senses, like, so you could see like, 5 things you see, 5 things you hear, 5 things you smell, 4 things you see, 4 things, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you count down. It depends where you're at. Like, so you might not be able to hear much, or you might be able to see much, or whatever it is. You want to just kind of tap into your senses. Can you taste anything? Can you see something? Can you smell something? Feel on your body. So that's really, that's really tactile.
I love that one. I actually, you know what? I don't, that's like one I forget about. Like, as you're saying that, I'm like, oh, I need to use that one more. What
I thought that really when you said about that, I said that I thought about that when you said ice cubes. I was like, oh, I always forget.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I thought in that moment was, God, Nikki is so good at this.
Well, you are also so good at this. Pete is also so good at this. Which is, it's funny, is everybody just has their go-tos.
We have our
go-tos. Things that you like, that you tend like. I like count colors in a room.
That's
like that's one that can be really concrete. Like if you're in any room, decide like count how many shades of blue you see, then how many shades of pink, how many. And just for listeners to know, the reason why these things like the using the 5 senses, counting colors, it's very grounding. It's very mindful. That even though I said distress tolerance is kind of like mindful distraction, it's funny. Like a lot of times people will say to me, "Oh yeah, that's really good because it distracts me from my thoughts when I count colors in a room." And I'll say, "Well, actually, your thoughts are distracting you from what's happening in the moment."
That's right.
So what we're actually doing is pulling you into the moment and orienting you. And what does that do? It starts to bring down the temperature of whatever you're feeling.
Yeah. And other self-soothing techniques would also be helpful. And so diaphragmatic breathing could be a great thing. No one wants to be told to breathe in the moment when they're feeling that way. But if we But if we are self
Fair.
and remember, and if you could just, even as you're listening right now, just take a deep belly breath, and it's really remarkable, like how it can absolutely just, activate parasympathetic and just people just chill.
Mm-hmm. Well, and similarly to that is like box breathing, if folks are familiar with that, which is like, inhale for 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale for 4, hold your breath, or not hold, well, hold at the bottom for 4, not hold your breath exactly, but pause. Yeah, I mean, I guess the last couple ones I would say it's things that are also just like very simple. Like I'll say, it's really like soothing things, like make yourself like a tea, maybe coffee, but if you're feeling anxious or angry, you wouldn't want to have caffeine because of activating. But if you're feeling very sad, maybe that would be helpful. Actually, it's something like a kind of helps you be a little bit more alert. Having a bubbly water, or just a cold glass of water in general. Like pet your dog or cat, right? Ask for a hug from a loved one. Put on comfortable clothing. I remember one of the ones I always liked in the DBT skills book was like wash your sheets and get under the clean sheets. It's like things that are very simple. And these are the things that we tend to disregard when we're feeling really, really dysregulated because we want to fix it. And what we really want to do is allow the emotion to be there and then do something else simultaneously that just helps us ride it out, helps us focus on the horizon, so to speak.
I love that you gave that the horizon because it's the boat's still going to rock.
That's right.
The boat's still going to rock. And so it's not about just eliminating, even though everyone we work with wants to eliminate. I want to eliminate a lot of the.
Everybody does. It's just human. It's just having a human brain. Like that's our go-to. It's the first thing that we want to do. And so, we just have to know that when we try to get rid of whatever intense emotion we're experiencing, if we're trying to not have it, we're going to have more of it. So, hopefully listeners are walking away from this episode with a couple concrete tools here.
A lot of tools. Thank you for a lot.
Yes. These work for me. I know these work for Pete. Definitely check out the DBT skills book if you're looking for a wonderfully thorough and comprehensive list. But just remember that whenever you're feeling intense emotion, and it's something that, it's higher than a 6.5, focus your eyes on the horizon, whatever behavior that is for you.
This has been When East Meets West. I'm Dr. Nikki Rubin.
And I'm Dr. Pete Economo. Be present, be brave. This has been When East Meets West. All material is based on opinion and educational training of Drs. Pete Economo and Nikki Rubin.
Content is for informational and educational purposes only.